travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant.
Good Saturday morning. Welcome to the Viera Vida show here on Usula Media. I am your host today, Chantel. If you are a regular to the show and you are listening on the live stream, then you would know there's normally two voices you hear at this time. And if you're watching the live stream, you would see the two people that are regulars here. Um, but yes, Julia is not with us today because she is on a business trip. So she is getting her business on. I hope she's having fun and learning much and doing great things with whatever she's doing. Um, but I am here today and I'm here with a guest host. She has been on the show once before. This is her second time joining us here on the Viera Vida show. Let's give it up for Devin Jackson.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. It's kind of gloomy outside, but
Is it?
oddly, like it feels warm in the house, even like warm and sunny, even though like there's no like real sunshine coming in. But it's cool.
I can understand the warm because Devin and I are currently on Zoom and I can see into her room because we're on Zoom. And you have your ceiling fan going, so I'm assuming it's yeah. And speaking of the weather, so this year for me, I'm actually loving what the weather's doing right now, just because I'm a little bit of a warmer body right now than what I used to be. And I feel like when the fall started coming, or this time of year, even though we're technically still in summer, you would have the really cold mornings. So when you were getting dressed to go out for work or going out for school, whatever you're going out for, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. Go inside to grab a jacket or a hoodie. And then when you left wherever you were in the middle of the day, it was like extremely hot, like really, really hot. And I was like, I gotta take this hoodie off. But right now, for me, I feel like our weather here in Philadelphia in the tri-state area has been cool in the morning and nice during the day. That's what we have up here on this part of the Northeast and the East Coast.
Florida, and it's Florida. You wake up and it's like, oh, should I put on a long sleeve shirt? And then by like 11 o'clock in the morning, it's like, yeah, I need to go take another shower because it's too hot out here.
Really hot, and there's
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Cool though, like a lot of the neighbors talk about it a lot. Like you don't want to complain, but it's just when you go from having all the seasons, you get that break. Here, it's like you flirt with the break, and it's not really enough to feel like, oh, I got some relief.
Some relief, yeah. And I'm a person who I prefer the summer, um, but being that I'm originally from New Jersey, I'm not too far from New Jersey. Being in Philadelphia right now, like Devin said, we go through the four seasons and weather change. So knowing that fall has to come, it's inevitable. Well, climate change, that's a whole different conversation. But we know that, we're supposed to have a change in temperatures. I kind of start to embrace the fact that the weather's going to change, and I started to want to wear my long sleeves and wear my sweaters. And then I found myself at times, again, thinking it's cool enough in the morning, I can wear my sweaters and sweating horribly later, feeling like I look ridiculous because I'm in this thick sweater and it's like close to 80 degrees and hot outside. Yeah. So what we're going to do in keeping with tradition of the show, we're going to move on to our roses section, shout out section, giving people their roses while they are here and still with us. And I will go first because I do have one today. Julie would be very proud of me if you're listening, homegirl. Anyway, I wanted to shout out the whole team, everybody who is currently dealing with virtual school, virtual homeschool, the teachers, and the parents, because this right now has been it's a challenge. It really is a challenge, especially. So I feel like having a kindergartner who, their mind, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, their mind is all over anyway, just because of their age. But I've been hearing from parents who also have older children who you would think or expect them to be able to sit and focus. They're also having a hard time just staying on a computer all day long, not moving around, not being in a building with their peers. So shout out to the teachers just trying to make it work. And shout out to the parents who are trying to maybe work from home and make it work for their children and being the support there for them to get on these computers and stay in front of them almost all day. Yeah, that's my shout out.
That's so sweet.
You have one?
I do. It's not as
That's okay. Listen, whoever, whatever you
I
want to shout
can't
out,
say
whoever
that.
you want to shout out,
It's still sweet.
it's your
Uh,
thing. What you want to do?
my brother-in-law, his 30th birthday was yesterday. So shout out to Phil Jack. Um, we're kind of friends, kind of not really, because he's an Eagles fan. So when he opened up his gift, he's like, "Thanks for my Eagles cup." We was like, "Yeah, we were." I said, "No, no, no, no. We were not. Your brother decided to get you this Eagles stuff." But no, he's cool. So yeah, it's nice when you have in-laws that you can be playful with
Yeah.
and FaceTime, Snapchat, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
happy 30th to Phil Jackson.
Yes, and welcome to the 30 Club. Woo, 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 woo. I was talking to someone the other day about coming into your 30s, and you're not there yet. I know
Right.
you and I know you're
I
30
started getting actually how close it is. I'm like,
Yeah.
am I 26? No, 28. I keep forgetting.
Once I got over 25, I would forget. I told our grandmother one day that I was like 23. I was 2 years old anyway. Um, I was very nervous in reaching, like getting close to becoming 30.
Hmm.
Because I think when you're in your 20s and you're reaching 30, especially if you don't feel accomplished in things that you wanted to do, and I say that, I say accomplished with air quotes, um, like, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. 30, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? I thought by this point I'd have blah, 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 and I'd be at this point. Sorry if you hear stuff that's dropping. I don't know if you can hear that. It's my son upstairs dropping his cars on the floor. So, but by the time he threw me off, but by the time I got to 30 and I turned 30, I felt like, and I can't, the only way I can explain it is I felt like I was a grown woman, even though I was also like growing in my 20s, like mid 20s to like late 20s. You're still an adult. I was still, having adult responsibilities, having to do adult things. I was a homeowner by my mid to late 20s. We had our first child in my like between my mid and late 20s. So it's like, yeah, I was already adulting, had a car note and all that stuff, but it's just a feeling. And I'm going to have to circle back on this conversation with you when you turn 30 to see if my thoughts and my feelings were correct.
Yeah.
And I'm 30, I'm grown. And it sounds weird because it's like, what happened to your 20s or your mid 20s? Why didn't you feel like an adult then? But it's just a different feeling.
Yeah, I also think that, and it could just be because of how things are set up, like with insurance and
Mm-hmm.
renting cars, like stuff like that. Like, it's really not until you get over, like, I don't know. I feel like 20s are still looked at as like the younger part of life.
Yeah.
It's funny how much pressure you put on it because, like you said, once you hit 30, you're like, oh, I should be like well into whatever vision I had for myself. But I don't know. I started thinking about that the other day actually because I remembered, like, girl, you're gonna be 30 in 2 years. I don't feel 30. Like, even though I have two whole children running around, like all this stuff going on, I don't feel it. But honestly, I do feel like when I turned 25, that was like my getting up there age because I no longer, when you do surveys, you're out of that like 18 to 24 box and now you're in like the 25 to 40 something. So I was like,
Yeah.
yep, I'm good. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I understand that. And then where you said you don't feel your age even though you have two children, that's also very true in the sense of age is just a mindset. It's a saying, people have said it, and it's true. You're only as old as you feel.
Yeah.
So even though I hit my 30s 3 years ago, I'm not someone who's ashamed to share my age. I am 33. Um, right, I'm 33. Yeah, I'm 33. Then you got it after 25. It's got it all. Um, I do. There are times when I feel like I'm still really young, and I am. I understand that, but I'm like, I'm still really young. I can still do many different things, and even though I have two little ones to look after, that's fine. I'm still an adult and still young, and still have, hopefully a life to live because tomorrow's not promised. So, um, yeah, 30's awesome. I did want to say one more thing about your shout out and your story. Sorry, Philadelphia, to disappoint you. Devin and I are New York Giants fans, G man. So that is so true. I was going to be very shocked to know that you bought him an Eagles cup, but I understand.
No,
That makes a lot of
I had
sense.
them know, like, I love you, but I can't do it. I can't
Yeah.
bring myself to buy the Eagles stuff and send it to you. Like, I just can't.
Yeah. And you purchased your husband Niner stuff, right?
Yes, but
Yeah.
see, so that's the other thing. I found like people who are not in our division, like I
Mhm.
don't really care. And
Yeah.
then with the exception of the Patriots, but now that Cam is quarterback, I'm kind of like, maybe I can forgive the Patriots. I
Yeah.
don't know yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just because of that divisional rivalry, I'm like, no, yeah, sorry, Philly, I forgot.
Yes, this is a Philadelphia base station, even though we do broadcast almost everywhere. And I believe also we have affiliates around the world. I have also purchased my husband Raiders gear because he's a Raiders fan. There's no issue there, no bad blood there. And I have to tell you, so um, Devin and I share an uncle who is a Dallas Cowboys fan, and his birthday just passed. And his gift bag that I got from Target, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make them these colors. I literally got a blue bag and literally got white paper to go on the inside. I kid you not, I didn't. I did. But again, I feel like if it was an Eagles fan, it would have been like that plain bag. But it is what it is. So yeah, that was really really nice of you guys. So we are going to have some conversations today, talk about different things that's going on in the news. A little lighthearted, some homeschooling topics on the other side of this break, what movies, what shows Devin's watching, and new songs. We're just gonna have a really lighthearted and fun conversations today. Nothing too serious, nothing too deep. If Julie was around, this would be called our Sancocho episode, where she would say a little bit of this, a little bit of that, rishi rishi. So yeah, so on the other side of this break, when we come back, I want to just talk about more about the virtual schooling, my experience with it, having a kindergarten at home, and Devin is a stay-at-home mom. So I just also wanted to talk to her about what homeschooling looks like for her and her girls. So stick with us, stay tuned. We have a lot to talk about on the other side of this break, and hopefully you don't go anywhere. This is the Viera Vida show on Usala.
I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. Kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. And even all these years have
feel and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
Welcome back to the Viera Vida show on Usala Media. I am your host today, Chantel. Julie is not with us today because she is on a business trip. I do have a guest with us today, Miss Devin Jackson, here today with me. Thank you so much for joining me again. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me again. I
Yes.
guess you guys like me, so that's cool.
Yeah, we like you a lot. And for you to be up earlier, Devin is an hour behind us because she is in Florida. And the funny thing is, which we did not know until she went to Florida, we thought that Florida was, part of the East Coast or the same time zone. But the part of Florida she's in, they're an hour behind.
Yeah.
Which there's a funny story to that too, right?
Yeah. So okay, don't quote me on this because my husband told me this.
Probably like the urban legend of the town. Well, not urban, whatever, the myth.
Yeah. However, there is a gas station that's here, and the owner wanted all of his businesses, his gas stations, to be on the same time zone. So, because of that, this little area, the panhandle of Florida, which honestly feels more like Alabama, Louisiana, truthfully, but we are on, I think it's Central Standard Time.
Yep. So I have to be mindful when I'm texting her and calling her. There's been mornings I've called her on my way to work. She's like, "Hello." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. You're still sleeping. Okay, talk to you later." And I'll hang up because Devin does have two little ones, two toddlers. So, I don't want to wake her if they haven't already, I'm like, let me let her get her sleep, because anyone with little kids knows that the getting sleep and sleeping in doesn't happen anymore.
No, and the wake ups are really weird. Like, I don't know that your children get the opportunity to do it because you're so busy and like you have to kind of be up before them.
Mm-hmm.
But I get like a cheek pat and like, mom, I'm hungry. Mom, my belly, I need food. Can you give me food? Like that. It's never good morning. It's just like, hey, I'm hungry. Like, okay, back to the workload it is.
No. So with Ellie, our little one, it is as soon as she wakes up, milk. Nehemiah will sometimes come and he'll just want to like he does want the hug first.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he'll come in and say, "Huh?"
That's sweet.
Yeah. Sorry. There's been times he's come in and told us that, you know, he's hungry. The craziest part is when they come in at like 6:30 in the morning. It's like, about, Mom, I'm hungry. I'm like, it is so early. Like the sun's not even up yet, depending on what, you know, season we're in. Go back to sleep. So yeah, that is a fun part of being a mom. But I know Devin wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm sure there's other parents, and including myself, who would not have this any other way. Because the joy that our children bring, and it's so true, sitting back and watching them, it's just a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So speaking of children, I wanted to talk about virtual homeschooling. Not so much homeschooling, virtual schooling and homeschooling, because they are two different things. Because if you're doing virtual learning with your children at home, especially if the school district is, you know, that's what they're doing, the teacher's still teaching, the school district is still teaching, your child's still getting public education with the district that they're in. It has been an experience. I think this past week was the first full week for Nehemiah, because kindergartners here in Philadelphia started on the 10th of September, and everyone else started like maybe the Wednesday before. They wanted to give the kindergartners a chance to get used to the computer a little bit. Teachers introduce themselves and like test the children a little bit so that they know who's where in their classroom, like at what point in their education they are. And also, one of the things that I thought was pretty cool, Nehemiah's teacher she has these like cards on these sticks, and it's literally the image of the microphone. One has the circle with the cross in it, like the half cross, to say like turn your microphones off, and then the other one has the cue of microphones on. So she uses that quite a bit, and she was going back and forth with them on the day of his interview of like, okay, turn it off, all right, now turn it on. It was really cute, and I really liked it. It's been an experience, and I wish that we were in different times, but we're not, so we have to try to adjust and pivot with what's going on. My son has told me on numerous occasions, just in his second week, this is boring and I do not like school. And I have had to, hey, Thalia, my niece just popped in the room. So say hey to her for those who are listening on the live stream and not on the video. I had to explain to him why school is important, why education is important. My son, everything that they're currently going over, he already knows. So being a mom, sitting back watching this and hearing everything they're going over, the days of the week, the colors, the numbers, the shapes. I've had many conversations on this show and on air with Julie and other people about him. He was reading at 19 months. He knew his shapes and was telling us shapes that we didn't know existed around that time. Dodecagons, handecagons, and I only know these names right now at this age because of my son, and he could tell you the sides of the shapes, etc. And he's really bored, and I'm trying to figure out, and I've had this conversation shortly with Devin the other day. I'm trying to figure out how to keep him engaged in education outside of what he has to do in kindergarten. And I know it's also harder because his teacher is doing the best that she can to view everybody and see everybody and get to everybody virtually. She's not in a classroom with them to actually be able to look around to see what they're doing at their desks. She's trying to see them on a computer screen. And then, you know, depending on how big her computer screen is, probably only allows her to see so many students at a time. So it's really hard. And I'm trying to figure out how to engage him because Chris and I also have to work. I work in and out of the office. My husband has been able to stay home. And even then it's tough with having to take phone calls, having to answer emails, having to turn in time sensitive assignments and tasks at work when your child is also needing assistance, especially at the age of 5, with the computer and knowing where to go, and me having to remind him, hey, what did your teacher just ask you to do? You need to listen.
Yeah.
And I'm also trying to find the space of not jumping in, because if he was in a classroom, I would not be there to assist him. The only thing I keep telling him is I am here to help you with the computer.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't give you the answer, he wants to turn around and show me his pictures, I'm like, let's do that during lunch. Let's do that some other time. So I'm struggling, Devin. I'm struggling and trying to find how to keep him engaged. Also, not get too involved as a parent because I want him to be able to figure out the answers and work with his teacher one-on-one. But also paying enough attention to if he needs the help with the technology.
So thinking about your trying to not be too involved, right? Because you don't know. I mean, obviously it doesn't look like it, but we don't know if in 2 months they're like, okay, back to the classroom you go. And now he's like, oh, where's mom to like, not to say that this is it, but where's mom to hold my hand, So I think that finding a balance of maybe being teacher's aide, right? Because she and or he, all the teachers who are having to take on this virtual form of learning now, they can't walk up to the desk and say, you know what, that's a great B, but maybe try to keep it up all the way to the line and connect all the way. Like, so
that's a good point.
I kind of feel like it's okay to nudge to the answer, or like kind of help guide, since she and or he, again, but I know Nehemiah has a woman teacher right now, she can't do that just like with the other kids. So you, of course, you don't want to be that parent who's like, oh no, that's not the answer, because you're not going to help. But to help nudge your child will also kind of help. Again, like I said, I kind of view it as like being that teacher's aide, because she can't have eyes everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then it's also, which I'm definitely going to take into consideration on days that I'm home, because I did have to jump in with one of his assignments. First, he's still a young boy. Mind is still thinking of many different things at one time. And Devin knows, she's very aware that he has these cars that he likes to drive. And I'm doing work. I'm not really paying attention, but then the noise of the cars get me as I'm working. And I also hear his teacher mention, okay, I love how I'm seeing everybody work. You guys are working so well. I'm like, wait a minute. What are they supposed to be working on? My son's over here driving his cars. So I turned him like, Nehemiah, what are you supposed to be working on? I don't know. I'm like, okay, wait. You're supposed to be doing something. So let's find out what you're supposed to be doing. She mentions again, which I'm so thankful, she's constantly giving cues in the middle of the assignment. Okay, you're looking for shapes in your magazines. You're going to cut them out. I'm like, yes, thank you. So I'm telling him, all right, let's get the magazine, find shapes. You're going to cut them out. So me being mom and having to go back to work, I go back to work. And as I turn around, there's paper cut out everywhere. Nehemiah, where's your shapes? You should take your shapes and put them on the top of your desk, because he was putting them on his chair. You should put them on top of your desk. Where's your shapes? I don't know. Just cutting. So what are you supposed to do? Oh, well, here's my circle. And it was a perfect Geico circle. It was an advertisement, but he had cut all in the circle and it's all just torn up. So I did have to take a moment to explain to him again, look, you see this? What is this? A rectangle. It was a L'Oreal box advertisement. Right. So you cut out this rectangle. So I did have to do that. But I didn't think about going and making sure that his letters, he is doing them correctly, reinforcing, being the guide, being a teacher's aide. But then it also speaks to the issue of being a parent having to work in the house.
And you got to add with your list of work assignments the fact that you have a over 1.5-year-old running around needing attention too.
Wanting
a lot of houses.
Kids Bop, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Baby Shark, Pocoyo. And then Devin, I've been on the phone with Devin before when she'll ask for like Pocoyo. She's watching Kids Bop because she loves music and loves to dance. So she'll want Pocoyo. I go over to the TV to change the Pocoyo, and in the middle of changing it, Kids Bop, Kid Bop, and I'm like, you just asked me for Pocoyo, like how? So, and she's very loud. I love her, but my daughter is very loud. And the other struggle I'm finding right now is with her being loud and us just trying to keep her quiet and content while Nehemiah is in school learning behind a computer. Chris is in his meetings on the phone. I have things I have to get done. We're kind of giving her what she wants.
Yeah.
Just to keep her quiet. And that's not a good thing. Like, okay, all right. You want to watch this? Okay, let's put it on. And I tried not to be that parent with Nehemiah. And I was hoping not to be that parent with Eliana, who just gives my child anything they want if they throw a tantrum or if they cry. I didn't want to reinforce that all they had to do was cry and throw a fit and they can get what they want. But we're kind of reinforcing that right now.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to keep her happy and quiet so that we can do what we need to do with Nehemiah's school and our work. And it's such a struggle.
Yeah.
The other piece to that is I'm nervous that my 1.5-year-old is going to be a little bit behind where I would like her to be. She can count to 10. She surprised me. She can count to 10 with like help. She'll take off at 7, 8, 9, 10. She definitely knows the back half. You help her with the front. She sings her ABCs. Every color right now is purple. And again, having Nehemiah, and I know I should not compare them, but I have a son who knew all of his colors and everything. And I'm scared as mom that I'm going to fail her because we're so focused on work and we're so focused on Nehemiah and his virtual learning that she's just going to be left to be raised by the television. And that is a concern also that I have right now.
Yeah. And I'm sure that there's a lot of parents going through that who can kind of like sympathize and feel that struggle with you. I mean, I'm home and I don't have a traditional job. And I'm going to say traditional job because being a stay-at-home mom for the past 4 years has taught me that it's absolutely a job.
Yep.
Minus, benefits of money. But yeah, like, because you get to a point where like you were used to putting your child down for a nap. That's when you got to do housework. That's when you got to prep for dinner. There is no housework time anymore. And so it's like video games are only for the weekend, but then it's like, okay, you know what? Go read another book and then you can do the video game so that I can get this done. So you feel like it's too much, the screen time and the video games and like a little bit too much leniency. But then it's also on the other side, well, what do I do? How do I balance catering to a younger sibling and keeping up with my work and keep making sure that the older sibling is getting attention too? And
what times we are in. So you mentioned the homeschooling, and I definitely wanted to talk to you about that. What does a typical homeschooling day look like for you? And if you can tell the listeners the ages that you have.
So I have a soon-to-be 3-year-old. Her birthday's actually in November, so she's over 2.5. So almost 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so I think that it's funny because if I would have been asked about homeschooling in like high school, I'd be like, no, those kids are always they end up awkward and like this typical stereotype of child who's homeschooled. And then going through college, on 2 occasions, actually, I came across 2 girls who were homeschooled, and you would not have known it. Socially, like they were with us. There was no difference. So with all this happening, I wanted to get Mia into kindergarten and past pre-K because I feel like educational-wise, pre-K would have been too boring for her, but socially it would have been great. Didn't work out because everything that's happening, obviously. So I took it upon myself to order some workbooks that would cater to my 2.5-year-old and my 4-year-old. The good thing for me with homeschooling is I don't have to wake up and be like, okay, you have to have breakfast right now and you have to be on the computer by this time, right? So it's that pressure is taken off a little bit.
Yeah. So you give yourself the time for like adjusting and whatever the day is going to go, like that's how it's going to go.
Yeah. And so, how most adults, they have like, not most, there's some adults who cannot get into their day or their work day until they've had their cup of coffee or they've read like
some type of morning routine that they're used to doing.
Absolutely. I feel like I try to give that to the girls as well so that I can have it too. Because I mean, they've said for years like waking up early and doing tests and stuff, it doesn't benefit anyone, but we're still doing that. So we usually don't go into our learning environment until maybe like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and that works for me. I'm able to get them breakfast. They can go play before they have to get into their workbooks, and then I can clean up their breakfast and get myself breakfast. So we all get that time to adjust to being up and get ready to learn. So throughout those hours, I'm like, okay, so go do this. We're gonna learn soon. Go do this. We're gonna learn soon. So some days it'll be like repetition songs, and then like visual aids of like counting. For instance, Mia just started to count by tens, and we did a song to make that easier. And Thalia was singing it, though she messes it up a little bit. She's trying. Thalia is the younger of the two. Um, but yeah, so we do that, and then on average, I spend 2 hours a day with them in the room doing the workbooks.
Okay.
But also for me, like for you, Mia can read her instructions, so it kind of takes the pressure off of having to be that aid with both the children.
Oh yeah.
And I can say, okay, Mia, you do that page. And if it's something new, she needs help, but I'm able to be more hands-on with one child because the other one can kind of like guide herself with a little bit of assistance.
Right. Not that I forgot about it, but that has taken a huge weight off of my shoulders. Yeah. I didn't even think about the fact that, you know, my son can read and he can read really well. Until I was at work and one of my colleagues, she said, it was before school started. She said, I'm still trying to figure out who's going to help my son, you know, read his work, because she is also a teacher. She's an educator. So she can't necessarily help her son because she's going to be on virtual helping other children. And when she said that, that hit me like, man, I really have to be thankful right now, because my son, if it comes to reading anything, I don't have to read the instructions for him. I don't have to read the directions. He can do that himself. So that is a big piece taken off. And this isn't to gloat or anything. It's just to say, maybe I need to like count my blessings and be thankful for the things that I do have. I wanted to go back in the homeschooling piece that you're talking about and teaching me how to count by tens, how to skip count. I saw on your Snapchat story something that you were doing with her, the activity you were doing with her to get her to understand the concept of skip counting and what that meant. Can you maybe share what you did? I don't know if you used the brain flakes or the palms.
I did.
You know what I'm talking about.
If you remember, when I feel like when we were younger in school, I don't know if they still have them, but like those little bitty blocks that would go like, that would be on top of each other, and you
the mouth counting blocks. Yep.
Yeah, you could visually see the difference, and that's what I thought about when the workbook that she had. So I'm using these workbooks that I ordered. I think it was off of Rainbow Center. I'm using them as a guide to help introduce the new learning ideas that they should have in their respective ages. So when I seen that for tomorrow, it was counting by fives in that case, I was like, okay, how can I make this make sense for a 4-year-old? She knows how to count by ones to 100, but what does it mean to count by fives? And so brain flakes are like little, they kind of look like snowflake discs for anyone who haven't seen them, and they lock in together and you can just kind of create things. And there's a bunch of different colors. So I took, I think, about 10 groups of the different colors, and we went one at a time. So I laid down the five, and I just told her, you know, like counting by ones is good, but if you count by fives, it's faster. And so we counted 5. You know that there's 5 red brain flakes right here. That's one group. We don't have to count it again. We already know there's 5. If we add another 5, and then that's what we just kept doing. So like every group was a different color. And I think visually that helped her to remember, okay, so red is 5, purple is 10, 15 is yellow. And it just like the coloring and the numbering and the repetition. And again, just kind of like making it make sense in the form of counting. You're still counting. We're just finding a faster way to get there.
And bringing it to her where she is in her age.
Yeah, and it seemed to grasp. And as I was doing it, I was like, she doesn't even realize that she's doing multiplication right now, because I was like, okay, so remember, we have 3 groups of 5. 3 groups of 5 is how many? 15. Like, so it's those simple things. And I was talking to my neighbor. Her son is, I think, 5, and she was just like, I guess we never had a conversation about me and reading. And so she read her license plate, and she was like, "What? My son can't do that." I was like, "Yeah, but you have to remember, I'm home.
Right.
It's not to say that parents who are not can't get their kids, because we started with phonics, so letter sounds, and that's how we got into it. It's not to say that parents who are not home can't aid their child aside from school learning. But with this homeschooling environment, I have the ability to know
Yeah.
what she understands, what she doesn't, what needs more work, what we can blow through, and what we have to take time with. And I feel like that's a really nice benefit of homeschooling. It's a lot of work because you're having to separate mom from teacher, and the frustration and the patience levels are tested constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like, because this is what we've experienced, it's more comfortable. And again, like, she doesn't have to be held back,
Yeah.
not to say that Maya's being held back, but he is so smart, advanced from what's happening in kindergarten. And so it's like, if children are able to learn to their levels, which we can't do in, virtual, traditional,
Right.
it's the herd of, you got to make sure everyone's there. But like, you get it enough, we can move on.
Right. Right. And I also wanted to just take a step back and just say thank you. And I know we already did our shout out Rosa section, but one of the factors that I know potentially helped Nehemiah in his academic growth, his intelligence, even at a young age. We bought flashcards. I had to go back to work after she was 9 weeks old. But I had family that he was able to stay with. My mother-in-law stayed with him for a while. I asked her to please do the flashcards. If he went and stayed with my mom for a while, even on weekends, she would make sure to do flashcards. He stayed with Devin. He stayed with you. He was just after turning 2, or just after turning 1. No, 2.
It was months after he turned 1, like
months after. Okay, yes, because Mia was born shortly before he came. She was maybe 6 months, going close to 6 months when he came. When you started watching him for me.
Yeah. Yes.
So sitting here and listening to Devin explain what she's doing with her children also reminded me, and her saying that, listen, I'm home, I'm able to do that, also reminds me that I was at work and he was also with my sister, and she helped to reinforce his color. She helped to reinforce, okay, let me do these flashcards. Devin also helped to reinforce the educational piece. So I do want to thank you, and I want to say thank you on the air. And also taking a moment for me to realize that he wasn't just at a daycare with a babysitter who just put on whatever was on PBS or whatever was on Nick Jr. and just let him watch TV all day. So I do want to say thank you. And I also, again, have to count my blessings and realize that I had people and have people in my support system and in my family who care about the continued education of their family, of their little ones. So they help to reinforce. Yeah, Chantel and Chris, they want the flashcards. Let's do the flashcards. Let's do things to help their little minds to continue to grow. So I want to thank you for that. And we are getting ready to go to, I believe, our last break for today. There are a few things that I want to, there's probably one topic I want to talk about on the other side of this break. Everybody, if I were to say the name Rachel Dolezal, I think you would understand where this next conversation might be going, because 2 more people this year within the past month or so have also been outed for pretending to be persons of color. So after this break, I just wanted to sit here and talk with my fellow Afro-Latina and sister and Black and Puerto Rican identifying woman to have a conversation about this. You are listening to the Viera Vida show. I am your host, Chantel. I have my guest here, Devin, and this is Usala Media. We will be back after this break.
Our hearts are made stronger by how we treat others.
Put her there.
The light you share can impact those around you, but so can the darkness.
Later, twerps!
Did Pete saying mean things bother ya?
So when you reach out to another person, take a moment to consider how they will feel and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Welcome back to the Viera Vida show. I am your host today, Chantel. Julie is not with us. She is on a business trip. I have a guest host with us here today, Devin Jackson. And again, this is the Viera Vida show on Usula Media. Thank you for being with us today on this wonderful Saturday morning. Before the break, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about a certain topic. Devin and I are both Afro-Latinas. When we were younger, we would call ourselves Black Puerto Ricans. Our father is a Black man, our mother is Puerto Rican. Let's just get into this because I want to see how you feel about what I'm getting ready to share. For anyone who doesn't know or who does know, who just, is listening in, this is the third person to date, second this year to be outed for pretending to be a POC. Sivi Vitolo Haddad apologized for claiming to be a person of color. Haddad was not the first this year, but was the most recent in the news. A few weeks ago, Jessica Krug also came out that she was not Black. And it seems the only reason she outed herself was to prevent someone else from exposing her first. The same can be said for VC Vitolo Haddad, who wrote their article after someone posted an article about questioning the authenticity of this person claiming to be an Afro-Latinx. Both Jessica and CV claim to be Afro-Latinx, people identifying as Afro-Latinx, but stories didn't add up. People started to look into their history and the background and found out that they were actually just white people. There was nothing there to show that they were actual persons of color. Now, Devin, I know that you are aware of Rachel Dolezal, because I'm sure almost everyone is aware of Rachel Dolezal, but this is your first time hearing this, correct? About the two people that came out this year.
Yes, this is the first time.
This is the first time. How does this make you feel? As being Afro-Latina, us being the lighter shade that we are, I don't have a kink or curl to my hair. My hair is very straight. Devin does have some curls to her hair, but how do you feel when you hear this? Know that they were trying to identify with what you identify as.
I don't think people understand how insensitive it is. And it might not resonate with people unless they've experienced it. And we've talked about this before, but it just kind of makes me think about, it takes me to the feeling that like I've had my whole life of feeling like I have to prove to the world like who I am or what I am. Like I have to tell you like my father's Black, my mother's Puerto Rican. Like it's not to say it's a struggle, but it is, because I feel like I have to pick one. And then you have people out here who are just claiming to be something that they're not, while still probably, I don't know these two ladies' story, but still in the streets, saying embrace who you are and love yourself. And it's like, I don't look like what America expects a Black woman to look like. I don't really look like what America expects a Latina or Latinx woman to look like either. So it's like when people like these women pretend to be something they're not, usually for profit.
Yep.
It's like you're making it harder for me just to be who I am with just trying to be who I am. Like I'm not trying to be out here getting money for being right. Like, oh, like I'm Afro-Latina, like follow whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, where should I sign up to get into this program just because? Yeah.
Just out here trying to live my life.
I feel the same. The very first thought in my mind, hearing the Jessica Krug story, hers was a few weeks ago. it immediately took me back to elementary school and secondary school and having to defend how I identified and having to defend that no, this is who I am. My father's a Black man. My grandparents are Black. My aunts and uncles are Black. Um, I have been brought up in the culture. I understand the culture because it's a part of who I am. It's a part of what I identify as. And also looking back, I know some people did it just because they thought it was funny. They thought it was funny to get under my skin because I remember people laughing like, "Oh, you're not Black, haha." But it did bother me, especially with the profiting part, right? Jessica Krug supposedly really made a career off of claiming to be a Black woman, and her story changed about her background or her Black identity and where she came from, where her family or her roots came from. Um, and I think that's the biggest problem, right? Because we already know the there's not an equal level playing field when it comes to education for Black and brown people. We know that, especially depending on neighborhoods that you grow up in. It's a fact, right? So there has been affirmative action put into place. There's been certain scholarships and things put into place. And unfortunately, the whole diversity quota, which I feel like, a lot of places only hire or bring in just so they can say, oh, yeah, we brought in somebody who's a person of color. Sometimes I feel like it's not necessarily to care that they want their center to be diverse. They just want to have the appearance to make it look like they care about diversity. But that's a whole nother issue in itself. However, when you are not a Black person, when you are not in Afro-Latina or Afro-Latinx, and you are claiming and taking away these spots from people who are, and taking away and profiting off of what someone else who, they might have great ideas. They have great ideas. They have books that need to be written. They would excel in this program. And because you came in and stole that spot, they did not get the same opportunity and the chance. That's what really bothers me. And it's fine to love the culture. It's fine that if you, love, salsa, merengue, and bachata, it's fine. It's fine if you love hip hop. I don't have a problem with that. If you're not a person of color, I have no problem with that. But I feel like it's disrespectful to claim an identity that you are not.
Right. And again, for the profit, or like only when it's convenient. Like you never see people who are doing this stick with it when you need changes made or like a difference. It's just when it's convenient, I'm going to claim your culture because it appears to be what's hot, when really you're only getting the benefits of it, because when you go home, you get to walk away from this persona that you've created of being someone else. And meanwhile, the people who are actually in this culture, they're having to live with all the struggles and the benefits. You're just getting the benefit.
Right.
It's unfair. It kind of makes me think about, like, I don't know if you had it, but there were a lot of, I can't say a lot, but I feel like I came across a lot of girls like in like high school to middle school who would claim to be Puerto Rican. And it was just like, because it was the cool thing. But then you see their parents and you're like, wait, are you Puerto Rican? Well, no, I have like a cousin through a cousin who's Puerto Rican. Like, okay, that doesn't make you.
Wait, people were doing that even back then, huh? Yes. I mean, I guess they must have been probably.
But again, it was for like this idea of, like the cuteness. So that's why I understand when people are like, oh, like certain people feel frustrated that people want that exotic form of a person. But then it's like, it's frustrating for myself or people like us, where it's like, I didn't choose to have a Black and Puerto Rican parent. However, I love the fact that I have like these two worlds together. Don't make me feel like I have to choose one, or, because of how they mesh together, like I'm lesser than in this, community or grouping. And because of things like that, when women and people do stuff like this, like claiming another culture that they're not a part of, it's really unfair, because you're not having to deal with these realistic burdens and, like the job issues and how people look at you or, take you, because you're only getting the benefits of it.
Right. Exactly. And another point to something that you were saying about them claiming identity that they're not, it seems that in everyone's story, if you go back to Rachel Dolezal's, if you go to Jessica Cruz, if you go to C.V. Patolo Haddad's, and again, I don't know these people personally, but it's the stories. If you go, there's like a lot of articles written about them. Colleagues of theirs would share that they always had conversations or stories about racial injustices against them. And I would never question a Black woman, regardless of her skin color, a Black man, regardless of their skin color, their experience in this country being Black, right? But these were three people who are extremely light skinned because they're Caucasian people, claiming to have like strong racial injustices happen against them. And I think that's what made people's heads start to spin and the wheels in their minds start to spin. Like, wait a minute, the stories didn't add up. There was inaccurate pieces to their stories, and it makes me like think that, you know, okay, let me put it this way. If you look at me, again, people always ask, what are you? I would probably be labeled as the racially ambiguous type, like just looking at me, looking at you. And I don't have the story of knowing that I was racially profiled against. I personally do not know that struggle, even being an Afro-Latina, even identifying as a Black and Puerto Rican. I have family members around me who have the story. Our father, and I've shared this before, Devin and I, we share the same father and mother, but our father has the story. He survived his, thankfully, by the grace of Abba Father. He made it out of his compared to a lot of our other Black brothers and sisters who are not making it out, dealing with coming across racist police officers. But to know that they were so strong, it was like they were trying to push a narrative in a story, and they were trying to push it so hard and so heavy to be accepted and to be like, oh yeah, I understand the struggle, I'm part of the struggle. And even if you've never been racially profiled against, you don't have the Black experience in this country, it does not mean that you cannot, especially if you're a person of color, it does not mean that you cannot sympathize or empathize with our Black brothers and sisters. Just because you're a white person does not mean that you cannot be an ally, does not mean that you can't come and join in the struggle and the fight to make sure that there is equality for everyone, and that the structures that are in this country that have been unfairly set up against people of color, against Black people, against brown people, does not mean that you cannot help to fight to bring those injustices and change those systems, bring them down and change the systems with us, right? And I don't know if people understand.
No one ever said that you had to look like me to fight with me.
Correct.
Like when young, you start on, sports. It's not just a group of, like one type of child. You have a whole mix of people trying to get to one goal, and that's supposed to be what America is. So, like there's no reason to, yeah, me too, girl. Like, no, if you don't know, then just say, wow, that's really sad, and I hear what you're saying. You don't have to always be the like Mr. Me Too kind of person. It's not helpful in the situation.
Yeah, because
sorry.
That's okay. I feel like just being human, seeing what people are going through, just being human, understanding that should not happen to a person, to a human being, someone who has blood pumping through their veins, just like you and I. And again, race is a made up social construct, but it's something that we use with it being made up. But it's like, we are all people, we're all human beings. Some people have more melanin than others, and that's just what it is. And it saddens me to hear that this happens, especially with being so fair skinned and being mixed, and feeling as a child, as an adult now, I don't feel like I have to prove who I am. I know my family, I know the culture, it is what it is, it's who I am. You're gonna take me or not, and I'm still standing with my brothers and sisters, whether they be Black or Puerto Rican, standing for both of them. But again, you don't have to fake the funk. And real recognizes real. That's another thing that came up in my mind. Real recognizes real. The fact that the Afro-Latina women that were around Jessica Krug, they actually were like, something's not adding up. And they tried to do it silently, because they even in knowing that she was like faking, but they couldn't prove it. Once they started to find the proof, they didn't want to just out her and just ruin her life. They were trying to do it behind the scenes and quietly. But one of supposedly the story is one of Jessica Krug's family members, or one of her close friends, caught wind of it and ran back to Jessica, and then she just outed herself to the world. So I don't know. I just feel like, be who you are. Doesn't mean you can't love other cultures, but get to know the cultures, understand them. Don't cultural appropriate. Be an ally. Be you. Be true. That's what I want to say about that whole topic. We have a couple minutes left. I don't know if I asked you this. Did we ask you this question last time? If you had one piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self, like your 21-year-old self, what would that be? Did we ask you this question last time you were here? I don't remember if we did.
Remember. Well, I would say walk in what you know is true. Because we just started a Bible study again in the neighborhood, and I just, you look back, like when you're young, you just like, things that are the reality, and you kind of just get caught up around everything that's around you, right? So kind of like with these women, you just kind of get caught up with what you think feels comfortable, but you know that it's not true. So, just like don't let other people waver you away from what you know is the truth.
If you could give one piece of advice during this, especially during this pandemic, especially being a stay-at-home mom and having children, what advice would that be going through these times right now?
Find a way to have your coffee on the porch. I know that probably sounds weird, but just to put it in a whole, like, you need to find a way to get away, right? Because we're all stuck together, and homeschooling, like I said, virtual schooling, it tries your time, your patience, your energy. As a parent, you have to figure out a way to be able to just step away, breathe in some fresh air, and then go back to it.
Very good advice. I'm going to take that one. Find a new way to have my coffee on my swing outside my front door. That's what I'm going to try to tell myself. 2020 has been a crazy year. I don't want to say, can it get worse? Because I feel like when you start saying those things, what else could happen? Like, worse things can happen. We've lost a lot of giants this year. Lost another giant yesterday. So rest in power to RGB, or BG. Sorry, I said that backwards. And guys, it's important to vote. So please get out there and vote. I used to be of the mindset that, our vote doesn't matter. The whole conspiracy theory, I bought into it at one time. But if our vote did not matter, I really, really strongly believe there would not be so much voter suppression as there is now. They would not be trying to stop our vote if it did not matter. So let's get out, let's exercise it. I also believe that, our forefathers, our ancestors, they fought for our right to vote when they couldn't. So let's also honor their fight and the struggle and their success of allowing us to be able to vote today. So definitely get out there and vote, either your mail-in ballot or if you're able to go in person. And I just hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful rest of their day on this wonderful Saturday. Thank you for listening to the Viera Vida show on USALA. Thank you, Devin, for being with us. I hope we can have you again sometime soon. And we will see you next week, same time, same place, 10 a.m. on USALA Media. Have a great one, everybody.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel